This week, portable ultrasound scanners, brain music, and robot dogs that clean up after themselves. Over the years on Click, we've seen devices get smaller and smaller, yet with more storage and more processing capabilities. This miniaturization of devices has touched everything from our computers to phones, and even revolutionizing areas of medicine. One area of medicine which has a lot of demand and could potentially benefit from miniaturization is medical imaging. In the UK, over 41 million scans take place every year in the NHS using X-rays, MRI and ultrasound. In an emergency, at the bedside or even in an ambulance, it can be complicated to get a patient to one of these large machines. But now, a portable medical device has been made available in the UK which could change all that, giving doctors and patients instant access to ultrasound at dramatically reduced costs. Jen Copestake has been to take a look.
The intensive care unit of Southampton's Children's Hospital admits hundreds of patients each year with a range of medical conditions from heart disease to trauma and neurological emergencies. Effie was admitted with a lung infection and needs constant monitoring with tests like X-rays and ultrasound. Usually these scans are performed by specialist radiologists, and they're not always immediately available. This ward has 4 point-of-care ultrasound machines. These two cost over £50,000 each. But now the same tests can be carried out using a smartphone app and probe, which fit into a doctor's pocket and cost a fraction of the price.
Esme's 3 months old, and she had heart surgery yesterday for a condition called tetralogy of Fallot, which is a problem in the heart where there's 4 different issues. And one of the complications of that is sometimes fluid around the lungs. And so at Southampton, we routinely do an ultrasound scan of children's chests before taking out chest drains to make sure that all the fluid's gone.
This ultrasound system is called the Butterfly and consists of a handheld probe which attaches to an iOS smartphone or tablet.
This is now filming where the lung meets the diaphragm, but that lung looks completely normal. There's no fluid around the lung, there's no fluid in the lung's moving well.
It costs only £1,699, a fraction of the cost of the larger machines, and its small footprint means it's less invasive at a child's bedside.
One of the problems with most ultrasound machines is the design of adults in mind, and so all the presets are designed for adults. And what we've actually got here is a whole variety of paediatric settings as well. So I can select paediatric lung, paediatric heart, paediatric abdomen, but also flip and do standard adult lung. And it allows us to jump between using one probe with the press of a button, rather than having to change the probes in our ultrasound machine over and over to get the right probe. Okay, let's get rid of all this jelly. Good girl, well done.
Traditional ultrasound machines use piezoelectric crystals, individual crystals cut into different shapes and sizes as different frequencies are used to image different parts of the body. But this also means that different probes are needed. The Butterfly uses ultrasound on a computer chip and needs only one probe for different body parts.
We're the world's first ultrasound on a chip, a single probe, whole body imaging system. Instead of the typical 124 imaging elements that are in a PZT probe, there are almost 9,000 elements in this. And so we can recreate all the different types of probes with just one. And that becomes really important as you scan different areas of the body in an emergency. You don't have to keep shifting probes. Just with a simple change within the application itself, you can go from heart to lungs very quickly and make rapid decisions on what's actually wrong with the patient.
The information from the app can be anonymously sent to a secure server for different doctors to review quickly. The implications for global health for a portable and relatively cheap solution for scanning are clear. An estimated 5 billion people around the world don't have access to medical imaging of any kind. In sub-Saharan Africa, the device is being used to check for pneumonia, the leading infectious cause of death in children under 5. In fact, the company's chief medical officer made his own alarming discovery when scanning himself during the device's testing.
When we were doing the studies for FDA clearance, I noticed some fullness in my neck. So I put the probe up to my neck and looked at my phone and shockingly saw a very large mass, which ultimately turned out to be a metastatic cancer. Yeah, so I'm patient number 1 of the butterfly and living proof that having an immediate access to an image can change your health and your life.
Southampton has bought 4 of the devices and plan to always have one available in its children's ambulance.
When you're stood in front of a child that is critically unwell and you desperately need information and you are relying on a third person and you're watching a child deteriorate and you feel powerless, actually this gives you the power. This gives you the information to look inside the kid's chest. It gives you information to look at their heart. You can decide yourself within seconds, and suddenly looking after sick children is a bit less scary.
For now, Butterfly is only available to medical professionals, but tests are currently underway with a group of cardiac patients scanning themselves at home. The artificial intelligence built into the device will help guide the patient to the right area to scan, and perhaps with regulatory approval, one day, at-home ultrasound scans could be a reality.
Tate Modern in London opens a major show of the work of the Korean-born visionary Nam June Paik, which brings together over 200 of his pieces. Here is someone who made a career out of being ahead of his time. He was the ultimate early adopter. He came up with the idea of wearable tech. He co-developed the first video synthesizer in 1970. He coined the term electronic superhighway in 1976, and he VJ'd a live global videocast via satellite in 1984. Hang around and later we'll have a closer look at this strange experience. Although Paik was Korean, he spent an awful lot of time in Japan, and a lot of his work is influenced by Japanese culture. I mean, no one loves a robot more than the Japanese, am I right? And in fact, Japan is where we are heading now for its annual tech extravaganza, CEATEC. Dan Simmons and Emily Bates are waiting for us on the show floor.
Hello, and welcome back to CEATEC. This is ridiculous.
Some things at Japan's annual tech shindig can leave visitors speechless. Unfortunately, not so for Emily.
This is an evil microphone.
Now, over to the kitchen. And is your robot dog trying to tell you something? Sony's Aibo is now faithful to Hitachi's appliances. If you leave the fridge door open or the washing machine finishes its cycle, he'll come and find you and bark and wag his tail, because an alarm going off isn't as cute and won't sell products. He even rides the robot cleaner, just like real dogs.
And with these transparent TV screens from Sharp, shop windows may never be the same again.
Okay, this is something quite interesting and that I'm personally quite excited about. It's something that I think many of us have been waiting for years, and Murata think that they've cracked it. How do we know whether we've got a cold or whether we've got a virus, or maybe whether it's a bacterial infection? Often our doctors take best guesses, but don't really know. And part of the reason for that is that any sample they take, if they do, takes a few hours or maybe even a couple of days to tell us what we've got.
Murata and Osaka Prefecture University have developed a portable device that gathers bacteria, making it easier and quicker to analyse.
A laser is pointed underneath the sample that is on a substrate, basically a plate that's placed on this device, and we can see here what the microscope is seeing. Now look closely and you'll see the movement of the water that surrounds the sample. Now the sample can be food, if we wanted to detect, for example, something that might cause food poisoning, or something that's in blood or in urine or spittle or any sort of substance that we might analyse from the human body. That movement of water is causing a concentration of the bacteria, or indeed the virus, down to the bottom, towards that plate. So there's no need to grow anything. There's no need to look too closely because everything is concentrated in a small area. This is about the size of a mobile phone. The idea is that that could be deployed into field clinics, into our GP surgeries, and the results of that, they're saying, would come back within minutes, not hours, not days, but within a few minutes.
It's still early stages, so don't expect anything for 2 years or so, but it's easy to see the impact it could make.
Sony devoted its entire stand to show off health tech this year, including this cell analyzer that tracks cell type and biomarkers, which can help to detect cancer. And it uses lasers that may be familiar to you.
We are actually using the Blu-ray players technology. We are hitting the cancer by laser and then detecting the scattered light from the cells. That is the exactly same as Blu-ray players.
Dan, what on earth is going on over here?
I thought try a little bit of surgery.
Surgery? You're a brain surgeon now.
Well, with these 3D glasses and that 3D screen there, this has one of the best resolutions for any surgery. This is actually used, this camera here is actually used in surgeries. And the trick is not to look down at what you're doing inside this brain, for example. It's to keep looking up at the screen until you've got the piece that you want.
Very good.
And then, look how small that is.
That is absolutely tiny.
Yeah, look at this. That is so small. I'm no brain surgeon, Emily, I can tell you. I'm busted. But this is child's play.
Do you think you should put his head back on now? And finally, Dan found a visual way to converse with the locals here that didn't involve flapping his arms around.
No idea what that means, but with a swipe of the finger, there's the Japanese and there's the English. Hello, nice to meet you.
Hello and welcome to the Week in Tech. It was the week that a robotic hand solved a Rubik's Cube. Developed by OpenAI, it took around 4 minutes to complete the challenge. The UK government dropped plans to use strict age verification checks to stop under 18s viewing porn online. And NASA unveiled their newest line of spacesuits, and engineers showed off the flexibility of the prototype suit by twisting and bending at the waist, unlike suits of the past. It was also the week that Fortnite disappeared and came back again for its new season. Over the weekend, a meteor shower took place in the popular game, with a black hole being the only thing on screen. But the game finally became available to play again 48 hours later as the next season launched. Facebook's proposed cryptocurrency project Libra has seen 7 of the original 28 member companies pull out. Booking.com was the latest to leave on Monday. However, a spokesperson from the social media company says they're still planning to launch next year if approval from finance regulators worldwide is granted. And finally, there's now a robotic solution to help you move a box from one place to another. Agility Robotics has shown off their newest version of Digit. Using cameras and LiDAR, it can identify a package by reading the barcodes on it, sense and avoid obstacles as it walks, and place it at its final destination. Now, Google held an event in New York where it gave more details about its latest Pixel phone, as well as a few other things. The Pixel 4 and 4 XL have been officially announced. Shipping on the 24th of October, their latest and most powerful generation of phones feature an astrophotography camera mode to take pictures of the night sky. They say it works by automatically creating a mix of 15 long exposure shots. The whole process can take about 4 minutes to complete. Google also announced a new smart speaker, the Nest Mini, which includes an extra chip. The company says it allows it to process more commands within the device rather than on remote computer servers. The latest version of Pixel Bud earphones were revealed, which Google says will connect to the new phones from a distance of up to a football pitch away. And their video game streaming service Stadia also got a shout out, with a release date of the 19th of November.
Okay, back to Tate Modern's retrospective on the work of Korean-born Nam June Paik, one of the first artists to use electronic technology in his art.
Nam June Paik was one of the artists who worked with mainstream entertainment sort of figures like David Bowie, and he was very interested in showing no boundaries between high art and mass culture. So in a way he showed a lot of things like MTV before it was available, but also YouTube and other things. And he understood those personal connections and communications were very important to bring people together beyond any national or cultural boundaries. Electronic superhighway was one of the terms he coined as early as '74, and he thought connecting different cultures and connecting different people in different countries could actually help people understand and avoid conflicts.
Although Paik is well known as being a pioneer of video art, he is also a pioneer of interactive art. This, from the 60s, is three-camera participation, where the viewer of the work necessarily becomes part of it. Way back in 1963, Nam June made a work called Random Access, which showed that a linear medium, like audio recordings, could be non-linear. It consisted of strips of audio tape and a portable cassette player with an extended magnetic tape head that could be dragged over the strips in any direction.
He employed TVs as artistic medium for the first time. TVs were very expensive electronic machines then, and only a few families could actually afford TVs in their household.
Paik was certainly way ahead of his time, so I wonder what he would have made of what Emily and Dan have found in Japan.
What could possibly go wrong?
This is a single-seater, sort of flying ship.
You've got to want to make this happen, people. This is brilliant. Hello. That was amazing.
The team takes part in a global competition, for real, in the US in February.
In summer, we saw NEC lift off its flying taxi.
After the excitement of that initial launch, it feels a bit like things are slowing down here. And that's because things like the infrastructure to actually get these off the ground in cities simply isn't in place at the moment. Now, NEC say they're working with the Japanese government to hopefully get uncrewed versions of these off the ground and in cities by 2023, which would be pretty impressive.
Last week, we were talking electric cars, and here's an idea to recycle the batteries. One autumnal Nissan Leaf can still store enough solar energy to power 12 of these reborn streetlights. 200 are planned for next year.
You can also charge your phone from them, which is useful in disaster situations, like the recent one that Japan had last weekend with the typhoon. Now, take a look at these underneath my feet. They are solar panels, and they're charging that electric car. It seems like a bit of a no-brainer. These can hold up to 20 tons. Very, very useful, and I think that the company producing them believe that by 2022 we could have roads made of these, so you could be charging up while you're driving.
Murata showed off a clever holographic style image that you can actually feel. Oh, that is really weird.
I wouldn't normally stroke a jellyfish.
Dozens of piezoelectric actuators and microblowers direct vibrations through the air to match up with where the image appears to be.
Over at Mitsubishi Electric, they had a holographic sign that you could jump through. But how about this? A projection that replaces a vending machine or ATM. It's more hygienic, and all they need to do now is to make the money appear out of thin air.
Meanwhile, I'm riding a dustbin lid.
It just doesn't like going forward.
TDK's 6-axis sensor gaming disc could be the future, but I'm not so sure.
I'm really not very good at this.
Emily and Dan in Japan. Now, when we're feeling joyous, sad, angry, we try and find music to fit the mood. Not sure that's it right now, if I'm honest, but what if you could guarantee to find the right song for the moment? Well, that is what LJ Rich has been looking at.
Here's a personalized station of party songs.
Voice-activated technology is finally good enough to capture our imagination. And with smart speakers letting us hear virtually any song on command, it's made music more consumable than ever. Today, Sonos are showing off their products with some unexpected technology art installations. Totally up my street. My favourite part of this exhibition is the chance to see what my brain does when listening to music. Now, normal brains emit lots of electrical activity. Reduced down to the basics, you could say they have 5 main states. For example, normal alertness will likely generate beta waves, and being relaxed or in a light meditation, alpha waves. Willing participants wear an EEG for rudimentary real-time scan. Sensors pick up the dominant waveform and use that data to inform the visuals. Now, as we all experience music differently, the visuals change across each person based on how each mind processes the stimulus.
So with the help of this brain headset, I can find out what my feelings look like.
It feels like staring at our brainwaves could offer a way to change our moods, much like choosing what to eat at a restaurant. So I'm not surprised to be offered a menu by Gabe, one of the brains behind the installations.
No one knows me like the piano.
It's incredibly fulfilling watching not just my brain, but others too.
It's quite hypnotic, actually. What would you recommend as a dessert?
As the intensities increase, so as the amplitude of the wave goes stronger, then that flow pattern will change, and it also controls other aspects of sort of that swarm of color and particles. The scale of the particles will change, and also sort of the bloom and decay and blur of a lot of those colors as well. So, you know, as all these waves are sort of like meandering in between each other, then you sort of get this like woven type of animation that plays out.
I think with something like this, we're able to show how easy it is to access things you're interested in, particularly here music. But I think as voice becomes more common and ubiquitous, I think it's going to change how we listen and how we interact with the content that we're really interested in.
And experience is everything when it comes to music. Many of us use it as a drug-free way to change our mood, and I can't wait for more choices on the menu.
That was LJ having her brainwaves read. More action in her head than mine, it has been said. And that's it for this week, apart from our big announcement, which is tickets for this year's Click Live, the show, are now available. This year, we're coming to Dundee in Scotland, and we would love to see you there. So if you'd like to see us in the flesh, you can apply for tickets now at bbc.co.uk/shows and tours. It's happening next month. We can't wait. And as I say, we'd love you to be there too. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and we will see you soon.